Hey guys, this is the last summer school lesson number 6, and our lesson is letter writing 101. So your lesson number 6 requires you to read the letter to Xavier High School written by Kurt Vonnegut, who is a famous author. He was asked to come to a school to give a speech, but he was elderly and not very healthy, and so he couldn't come. So instead, he wrote that letter to the students, giving them advice and encouragement for their futures. So your assignment this week, or for this lesson, is that you're going to be writing a letter to the 6th graders 10 years from now, so in 2030. So these kids are toddlers right now. They haven't experienced the whole COVID-19 scenario quite like you guys have. In fact, they may not even really be aware that anything is different. So you guys, having gone through this and through 6th grade now at this point, you are writing them advice. So a couple things about your letters. All right, first of all, start by brainstorming your topic. So think about, what advice should you give future 6th graders? What do they need to know? Think about the things you wish somebody had told you before you started 6th grade, or maybe they did tell you, but you didn't actually listen. Okay, now that you've experienced 6th grade, what is it that they really need to know? My advice to you would be to cut your pieces of advice down to only 1, maybe 2 topics. All right, so give maybe 2 little hints of wisdom to them. If you give more than 2, you're going to have too much going on in your letter, and you're probably not going to do a good job of fully describing them. Instead, you're just going to be like listing advice, and that is not the goal, and that will not get you the best score on the rubric. All right. When you write your letter, I strongly suggest writing a rough draft on another piece of paper first. But when you actually do write your letter, a couple things about letters. So letters include headings, okay, as you see in our example there. There are some address lines. I understand why you guys might want to skip the address line, although we do have it in Skyward. All right, but if you want to skip the address line, that is just fine. Put the date at the top, and that goes on the upper right-hand side. The greeting goes on the left, all right? And you can just start it, dear 6th grader, dear class of 2030 6th grader, however you like. Then the body is where you're actually going to share your advice and your explanation of your advice. And then you will need to include a closing with your signature. Sincerely works well, but it's yours. Be creative. Organizing and transitions are both part of your grading rubric, so I wanted to go over those quickly. So again, I told you guys I would recommend to focus on only 1 or 2 pieces of advice, because the expectation is that instead of just giving a piece of advice always have gum in your backpack or something, all right, you need to also explain why. So maybe your reason for always having gum is that if you share gum with your friends, you'll be popular, something ridiculous like that. I'm trying not to take anything away from you guys by giving you an example you would actually use. So whatever it is that your advice is, you have to actually support it. You have to give details. You can even tell a story about how you learned this lesson. That'd be great. Okay, but you have to explain it. So that's why we only are picking 1 or 2 things. Transition words are going to help you when you're making the connection from one point to the next, or if you're explaining something. So you might want to say especially in this case, or you may want to give a contrast, you always want to carry gum. However, you want to make sure that you are not chewing gum at school because you will get in trouble with certain teachers. All right. So make sure that you are using those transition words. This is just one list, but really if you Google, you can find crazy long lists of transition words to help you out with that. And a final few thoughts. Okay, so I've taught 6th graders for a while now. So for some reason, we kind of forget grammar rules when we write. So make sure that you are capitalizing the first word in every sentence and any proper nouns. This includes your name, guys. Seriously though, I cannot tell you how many sixth graders I've had turn in papers with their names not capitalized when it was like a proper writing assignment. We capitalize our names. Just do it. All right. Make sure you have end punctuation. End punctuation are things like periods and exclamation points. There should be separate sentences in your letter. It shouldn't be one big long thing. Make sure your advice is clear. Okay. I shouldn't be guessing what advice you're giving to the sixth grade class. It should be real obvious what you're suggesting, and then you're going to support that. And then finally, this is something I suggest of all writing. Always reread your writing out loud to yourself before you turn it in. You're going to trip on grammar and spelling issues and know to go back and fix that. You're going to hear it if something doesn't quite make sense or doesn't come across the way you meant it to. For some reason, when we read aloud, because we're both reading and hearing, our brain is able to catch things that we don't catch if we don't read out loud. Just trust me on this one. All right, guys, you are on your way to finishing up your summer school assignments. So get to work, get it done, get it turned in, and have a great summer.